welcome to our Christmas podcast. This is Healing for the Heart's Christmas podcast. We are delighted to be able to join you wherever you are just now. It's our first shot at a podcast, and we are excited about what is going to come. We are just going to sit here and have a conversation, and we hope that you will come and join us in the conversation. I was actually thinking we should probably add a pot of coffee and a couple of cups on the table, because then we could just have invited people to come and sit around our table.
Yeah, that would have been a good idea. Next time.
However, if the take's not successful here, we'll go and get the cup of coffee,
Yeah.
and we'll bring it through and we'll do the stuff. So it is the run up to Christmas time. We are obviously all looking forward to Christmas, maybe coming up in the not too distant future, and we thought we might have a bit of a chat about Christmas, and so we thought we'd kick off with our favourite things about Christmas. I don't know about you, if you have a favourite thing about Christmas. For some of us, perhaps the favourite thing about Christmas is once it's over, and we'll get onto that later on. But why don't you tell us what your favourite thing about Christmas is, and I'll try and think of mine.
I really enjoy all the Christmas lights. They bring me an awful lot of joy. I think December can be so dark, but it's all twinkly. And so I like the whole fairy lights thing. And I also live in an area where people really go all out for all of the lights on their houses. So that's quite fun, and quite fun to drive around and see how early they're going up. Someone said to me today, "Oh, it's only 4 weeks till Christmas." And I thought, oh, I don't think I wanted to know that. That's a little bit scary, but actually it does mean that the lights will start going up. And I also really like a Christmas movie. I like that whole let's hunker down and watch a cheesy movie, which we all know the end is going to be wonderful, but there's just something really heartwarming about that.
Nice, excellent. I think I like the Christmas tree. That's my favourite bit of it. I like the Christmas tree because when our kids were little, and actually when they were not so little as well, we used to always encourage them to buy a bauble every year. So they could buy something for the tree, and they would get to go and choose their bauble for the tree. And so I have two kids. I have a girl and a boy who are both now in their 20s. And when my daughter used to go, she would pick quite tasteful, dainty baubles that would go on the tree. And they always had a budget to work from. So we told them they could spend up to whatever. And my son would go, and he always felt that it was better to get value for money. So he would buy the biggest, gaudiest, ugliest bauble that he could possibly find. And so when I put the baubles on the tree, or when we started to hang the baubles in the tree, I suppose each bauble actually reminds you of something, because you remember, as you're hanging this, where it was bought. But also when you stand back and look at it, you can pick out all the baubles that my son bought, and my daughter's just kind of pale into the general aura of the tree, but his baubles definitely do stick out like a sore thumb on the Christmas tree. And it is the standing joke in our family about the baubles that my son picked for the Christmas tree. So I think that's probably my favourite bit of Christmas. I think though sometimes Christmas, there's such a lot of pressure on folks at Christmas time, isn't there?
Yeah.
In terms of getting it right and doing the stuff, and that's hard for folks, isn't it?
Yeah, I think there's an awful lot of expectation about how it's going to be. I think so I've already said I enjoy a good Christmas movie, but the Christmas movies, I mean, they basically lie to you, don't they? They basically say Christmas is going to be awesome, and it's going to be a wonderful time. It's the most wonderful time of the year, and it'll be so lovely to spend all of that time with all of your family, and it'll snow, and you'll get wonderful gifts, and no one will burn anything, and it'll just all be wonderful. And I think that creates an unreal expectation, actually, of what that will be like. And I think, I mean, so the first Christmas I ever hosted Christmas with my mum and my family, I grilled the turkey. I mean, actually, I put it in, and it had been in for quite a long time. And then my boyfriend of the time, who's now my husband, came through and said, "Are you sure you're cooking that right?" And I was like, yeah, it's fine. And then he was like, "Yeah, you're grilling it." So, that's a funny memory now, but at the time it was that thing of, oh my goodness, I've got my whole family here and I'm supposed to be feeding them. And I said that I would have dinner on the table at 3:00, and dinner was an hour and a half late, and it didn't matter, but actually it felt like it mattered.
Yeah, but it's that thing of having to live up to expectations, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm not sure Well, I think I probably am sure now in terms of where social media takes us as well. And I know that, we're big on social media and Healing for the Heart in terms of being able to tell people what we're doing and who we are and all the rest of it. But actually, the whole idea of social media, it kind of creates this whole false impression of what it's like. Because let's face it, there's very few people going to put on Facebook that the fact that they were grilling the turkey.
Yeah.
But because everybody else's turkey is coming out of the oven, golden brown and sizzling, and the knife is gently slipping through it and it's carving, so, and somehow it gets it kind of into your psyche that this is actually what it is like for everybody else. So somehow if your Christmas doesn't look like this, it's failed in some way, shape or form.
Yeah, it's the hashtag so blessed thing, isn't it? My life is wonderful. And actually we forget that social media curates our lives. So we curate what we put on. We put the cute things on and we don't put the difficult days on. And I think Christmas can be really difficult. I think financially it can be really difficult as well, because you've got to get gifts for all of these people and all of these people, and it's almost that keeping up with the Joneses thing of everybody else is having this wonderful time, everybody else is spending this much on their kids, everybody else is spending this much on their dog or their mum, and if you can't attain that, that's really hard. That feels really difficult.
Yep. I was just having a conversation with somebody earlier on today. So one of the charities in the building here, the guys in Spirit Aid, they've been gathering toys as a Christmas appeal for families that don't have enough to be able to go out and buy however much for their kids. And the guy I was talking to this morning was saying something that just hit me with the whole, when you donate to organisations like that, and you maybe take your box of games or whatever and you stick it in the donation box and you think, oh, that'll be a nice present for a child for Christmas. But what the guy was saying this morning was, it's not about, so there's a pair of socks and that child gets a pair of socks. It's like you might have a family coming in that's got 3 or 4 kids, and who actually come in, and they can come in and it looks like a department store, so they can come in and they can choose 3 or 4 gifts for each kid, so it's not like, sometimes it feels a bit like, oh, aren't we doing a great thing because we're managing to give one, but organisations like that are putting stuff together, it's not just about one kind of 1 week kind of token present for somebody. It's actually about how you help a family to celebrate Christmas like that, because not everybody's got the picture postcard, Facebook, Instagram image of Christmas. In fact, I would suggest that there are very few of us that have got an Instagram image of Christmas. I suppose for me it's not the whole thing about grilling the turkey. That's an experience that I've not had. I should probably have that experience at some point in time. I've not had a grilling the turkey experience. That might be one to replicate. But anyway, the food thing and all the rest of it, I remember over the years getting completely stressed out. Since we were married, kind of 30 odd years ago now, we've hosted Christmas dinner, and getting stressed out about whether or not I could get the potatoes ready at the same time as the sprouts as the turkey, or were they going to be eating the main course in installments because it wasn't all ready at the one time. But so the cooking thing isn't something, it's either on the table or it's not on the table for me. It's like, that's too bad if it's not. For me, the thing I was thinking about Christmas though is that for some folks it's a really bittersweet time as well. So it's not just to do with the picture perfect image of the day, but actually for lots of folk, Christmas throws up tons of loss for them. I remember over the years when we started doing Christmas dinner, we couldn't get everybody round the table because we had too many people for the seats that we had, and so we had to draft in seats to put round the table. And now we've got more seats than we have people, because actually people who came round our table have died. They're no longer here. And so sometimes when you sit down at that Christmas table and there's now big gaps round the table, there's a real sense of there are folks missing. And I think that's hard for people as well, because that's hard to talk about, because in the midst of a day like Christmas, you're supposed to be all happy and everybody's having fun, but sometimes it's really obvious when somebody's missing, and that's hard for folks as well. And I guess we pick some of that up too in terms of what folks bring into counselling and stuff here as well, because that affects people's mental and emotional health. And
I wonder what it's going to be like this year, because I think Christmas last year for all of us was really odd, because we couldn't go anywhere, we couldn't do anything. I remember we had gone to see we'd gone to see somebody, and that was fine, but because we were bubbling with them. But then we had come back, and we'd gone up the road to see my sister, and we sat outside. We sat round a fire outside on Christmas Day for an hour because it was cold, and we were grateful that it wasn't raining, and it was lovely. And we went home, and we actually had a really quite a nice time, just the two of us. But there was still something funny about it, and yet this year, when we are doing the opposite, so we are going to be travelling to spend some time with my extended family, but even that feels, although that'll be nice, it does feel a little bit like, oh, how do we do this? What are the rules of this again? Because we didn't do it last year. And it feels almost like the expectation of, because we couldn't do it last year, we have to make this one a really good one. And I think we need to lift the pressure off ourselves for that, and just say, do you know, it's going to be what it's going to be, and there might be some tricky moments, and it will be nice to see people, but equally, that's a lot of people after not a lot of people.
Yep, and I think that's something I'd picked up from some of the advertising. I've even seen round about television and whatnot for Christmas. There seems to almost be a hype coming about the fact that we couldn't do this last year, so we should do it this year, and that just puts it in almost an intolerable pressure sometimes on people to live up to that kind of expectation. I suppose when in terms of us as a mental health charity, or folks who are concerned about folks' mental and emotional health, I mean, what would we say to folks about Christmas, and how do you navigate that?
I think part of it is taking the pressure off yourself, and recognising that actually you only have capacity for a certain amount of things, and it's okay if you don't have capacity for everything, and actually sometimes getting up and going out for a walk is a really useful thing, because it just calms everything down, and it regulates you, because it's that thing of regulating your breathing as you walk, all of that kind of really grounded, mindful stuff. I think that kind of thing is useful. I wonder whether also I quite like a plan sometimes. I think it's useful if you know going into something that you're going to be a bit overwhelmed by something, have a plan. So have a, so I used to, it wasn't particularly Christmas, but there was a time when I would get quite overwhelmed by things, and my husband and I had agreed that if I was finding it difficult to say I was overwhelmed, that we would have a phrase that I could use, and he would know that actually at that point what he needed to do was put me in the car and take me to the beach, and that would help me. And I think it's a similar thing for Christmas. I think actually planning, okay, so I know that I might find this overwhelming. When that happens, this is what I will do. And if you've got somebody else that you can say this is my plan to, then they can help you with that.
Yeah. I think also it's about having realistic expectations as well, isn't it? All this whole pandemic thing and the Zooming thing and all the rest of it, I don't know how many times I've said to people when I've been sitting on Zoom with them, I'm so glad that you can't see what's behind the camera, because in actual fact this wee tiny bit here looks organised, but there's absolute bedlam and chaos behind the camera. And I suppose it's worth folks remembering that when you see these images on Instagram or on Facebook, you're only seeing what the camera's pointing at. You have no idea what's going on behind where people are taking the pictures, and there's precious few, if any, of us who have Instagrammable Christmases. And I suppose it's just being real about that, isn't it? And not feeling that you have to keep up with the Joneses in terms of social media and what that looks like.
I think it's also worth knowing that so there are good things that social media can do. So there's a hashtag, and I have entirely forgotten it in the moment, but there's a hashtag that Sarah Millican uses, I think, which is like to do with if you're Christmasing on your own. And so people, essentially the Twitter community comes together and they use the hashtag to kind of be together. So in that way, I think social media can be quite helpful. And I think some people have found that really to be really useful.
And there are lots of ways. There are lots of ways that people can actually connect, and we've learned over the pandemic to be able to connect even virtually when we're not connected physically. And I guess that's really important for people too, and how they stay connected over Christmas time. So it sounds as if we're saying take the pressure off yourself. Or it sounds as if we're saying actually nobody's got an Instagrammable Christmas, and that there are small things that you can actually do that will make a difference to you, even if that is just getting outside to clear your head for a wee while. I guess too that we would want to say, particularly at the end of this, that from us at Healing for the Heart, we would want to say that we really do wish you a very Merry Christmas. We hope you have a lovely time. And we want you to know that if you're part of our community here, then we are thinking about you. We recognise that it's not all roses for everybody in our community over Christmas time. We will still be posting on social media over Christmas time. Obviously, this podcast is coming out over Christmas time as well. And we would encourage you to engage with our community over Christmas time as well. Please tell us how you're getting on. Please wish one another a Merry Christmas over our social media channels as well. And again, in the new year, if there's anything at all that we can do for you, then you know where we are and you know how to get in touch.